All right. Thank everyone for being here. Family, friends, the choir. Thank you, Michelle, for bringing the choir. It's an awesome day in the Lord. Amen.
Amen.
While I was up here, I was praying for y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was praying for y'all. Y'all too. Y'all too. I was praying that God would allow me to take y'all where He would want y'all to be, and for me to just step back and let Him do His wonderful work. Amen. All right, so today I'm going to be preaching John chapter 5, verses 1 through 10. When you get there, let me hear you say amen.
Amen.
And it reads like this. After this, there was a festival of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now in Jerusalem, by the sheep market, there is a pool called Bethesda, which has 5 porches. In these lay many invalids, blind, lame, and paralyzed. One man was there who had been ill for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been there a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no one to put me in the pool when the water is stirred up. And while I'm making my way, someone else steps down ahead of me." Jesus said to him, "Stand up, take your mat, and walk." At once the man was made well, and he took up his mat and began to walk. The title of my sermon is, "I am blessed in my brokenness." By the mandate of the Electoral College and the approval of the American people, President-elect Donald Trump will take office January of the year of our Lord 2017. The voting took place 13 days ago. Since that time, the Department of Justice has logged over 400 crimes classified as hate crimes. In Florida, white high school students were placing white-only signs over water fountains, harkening back to the Civil Rights era. In Greenville, Mississippi, Hopewell Missionary Baptist Church, a 111-year-old historic black church, was burned down with the words "Vote Trump" spray painted on the exterior walls. Right now, we're experiencing trauma and brokenness on a national scale with this new president-elect. But we also experience brokenness on a personal level. When we experience problems or pains, sufferings or stress, rejection or persecution, illness or weariness, depression or death, poverty or treachery, hardship or hate, or anything else that's unexpected, unwanted, and unplanned, we tend to feel for some reason that God is not pleased with us. Sometimes, y'all, we don't feel all that blessed. Yet actually, some of the richest blessings come out of our most severe brokenness. Now I would like for you to take inventory of yourself and answer this. Right now, do you feel blessed? The scene described in the opening verses of John 5 have been one of the most, it had to be one of the most distressing and heart-rending sights a person could witness. Because these opening verses in John chapter 5 portray a great multitude of hundreds or more hopeless people, all waiting with an increasing desperation for a miracle. These hopeless people were all infirm. They were paralyzed. They were blind. They were lame. They all gathered at the pool named Bethesda, which means the house of mercy, in the hope or expectation of being the first one in the pool after the water has been stirred by an angel of God, so that they could be healed. And I want to take you there for just a little bit, for just a couple minutes, And so if everyone would, please close your eyes and think about how this must have looked. Can you see the hundreds or thousands of people gathered at the pool, 360 feet long, 130 feet wide? That's larger than the sanctuary. Some of the people came to the pool on their own, but many more were carried by others who were attending the festival. The men, the women, the children. Some on makeshift stretchers, some missing limbs, boils on their bodies, wounds festering with maggots, deformities, people walking with canes, and those that could not walk, dragging themselves. Now, can you see all those infirm people of various conditions, pushing and shoving, moving each other out of the way, jockeying for position to get to the pool in hopes that they're in the right place at the right time, so when the waters are stirred by the angel of the Lord, they alone will be the fortunate one to receive the blessing of a miraculous healing. Okay, please open your eyes. That was a pretty rough image, huh? As I was reading the text and starting to understand the people at the pool, I realized that we are the people at the pool. In our own brokenness, trying to get our blessings. Our brokenness has us all searching for that blessing. If I pray harder, I can get my blessing. If I tithe more, I can get a financial blessing. If I serve more, I'll get my breakthrough. If I get that promotion at work, if I get this degree, if I can just find a spouse, if I can get more Facebook friends. We are all in a never-ending cycle of trying to get something or someone that will meet our perceived desires and needs. All they were thinking about was, if I can get next to the pool, I'll be one step closer to my blessing. The healing or solution to our problems is not in the pool and not limited only to one person.
That's right.
If I can just be the first one in the water, everything will be all right. That's us, but it's not real. I was reading a fascinating book titled The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. The premise of this book is a senior demon mentoring a junior demon. And they write letters back and forth every week so the junior can keep the senior updated and the senior can let the junior know what to do. In one particular letter, Screwtape, the senior demon, said to the junior demon that a highly effective way to convert a follower of the enemy, in this case, who is God, is to keep them from focused and praying to symbols and trinkets. Have them pray to anything except the enemy, which is God. I'm talking to demons here. Rosary beads, crosses on the walls and such. And that way, they keep you from consorting directly with the enemy, which is God, which will build them up and make them inaccessible to us and our purposes. So why do I say this, church? Like the people in the text looking for a blessing in the pool of water, we too look for blessings in things, places, and objects that are not capable of providing such. Yeah. Blessings are relational, and the relationship is directly with God. Yes. Jehovah Jireh is the only source. Yes. Build an intimate relationship with the Lord, your personal provider. Not a lucky pair of pants, not a cross on the wall, not a prayer cloth, not in for super spiritual folk. Tithing for purposes other than you're supposed to be tithing.
Yeah.
Jesus has removed all obstacles keeping us from the Father. He is the only path. Yes. And the only thing that can hinder us from his blessings are us.
That's right.
Now, the text also tells us in verse 5 that one man was there who had been ill for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been there a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no one to put me in the pool when the water is stirred up, and while I'm making my way, someone else steps down ahead of me." Now, this man has no family nor friends to put him in the water. The text does not speak to how long he has not had friends or family that will cover him, but it is clear that the man does not realize, even without those families and friends, that he is still blessed. He is still blessed in his brokenness because he has God. In all of our lives, there will be times in which we feel abandoned by friends and loved ones. When you're in need, some will not be willing, some will not be capable, and some will lie and then not show up. But like Job, some of the things we must endure or deal with on our own. Regardless of how brutal the situation, we must be mindful that whatsoever we're going through is not about us all the time. And that there's a strong possibility exists that God is specifically preparing us to minister to someone else that we're going to run into later down the road. Or he's preparing us for a future assignment. Now, I'm not saying by any means to isolate yourself when you have an issue. I'm telling you that whatever you're going through, you're good. Now, the text does also not say if the man cried out to God in prayer, but I personally believe that he did. If he has no friends or family, he must have been a local from the holy city of Jerusalem. Therefore, he had to know something of God. I believe that the infirm man prayed at some time during that 38 years of being infirm, and unknowingly, God didn't only send a blessing, but God showed up in the form of Jesus Christ in the flesh. And that's a blessing beyond measure. Jesus does not leave us alone in good nor bad times. The greatest miracle of all is that God looks at each and every one of us and all of our dirt and all of our foulness and still says, you. You are beautiful. I choose you. So remember, you are mine and you will never be alone. Jesus said to this man, stand up, take your mat and walk. At once the man was made well, and he took up his mat and began to walk. Now, see, the thing here is that Jesus is God. The sovereignty of God allows God to do whatever he wants. If he wants to infirm someone just because, God can. If God wanted to infirm someone as a punishment, God can. If God wanted to infirm someone as a part of his ultimate plan, God can. In the case of this man that's been infirm for 38 years due to sin, God infirmed him, but also God can likewise heal.
That's right.
The first thing that the Bible is saying, but is not saying, is that out of the multitude of the infirmed, Jesus saw him. This man was blessed in his brokenness, and so are you. Something else that's in the Bible but's not in the Bible is that God was faithful in sustaining this man for 38 years while he was infirm. This man is blessed in his brokenness, and so are you. That infirm man did not know he was talking to Jesus. Think about it. Other than the super saints, what would you really know if Jesus came to you in the flesh and started talking to you? The creator of heaven and earth, the creator of the universe, Jehovah Jireh, provider of my vision, Jehovah Rapha, my healer, Jehovah Mekadesh, my sanctifier, Jehovah Rohi, my shepherd, or as my Jamaican family calls him, Jaja, which means God. This man was truly blessed in his brokenness, and you know what? So are you. In Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Remember this. The reason that the not harm you part is in that verse is because you're going to go through something. You're going to go through something. And when you do, remember that you have to have God. When you do, remember that you have a God that is faithful.
Yes.
Jesus is more committed to making us holy than he is to making us happy.
That's right.
1 Corinthians 1 through 9, God is faithful who has called you into fellowship with his son, Jesus Christ our Lord. In this life, the rain of misfortune will fall on the heads of the righteous and the unrighteous. And I know it's hard sometimes to see in the midst of brokenness, trust in his word and the testimonies of others. God sees you and your brokenness. As man, we change, but we serve a God that loves us, is faithful, and is unchanging.
Yes.
We are all broken and looking for a blessing. Your blessing comes only through Jesus.
Yes.
When you feel alone, remember that God loves you and will not forsake you.
That's right.
Now, I want all of you to get out there and always remember that in your brokenness, you are blessed. Thank you.
Amen.